penetration, adherence, and spreadability. We're going to be discussing using adjuvants to get better control on this edition of the Pest Geek Podcast.
Pull out your hose and grab your can. We're about to integrate another Pest Geek Podcast. Hi, everybody. Frank Hernandez here, and welcome to the Pest Geek Podcast, bringing you the latest information on pests, products, and politics from today's leading industry sources to help you start, manage, and grow your pest control business.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Pest Geek Podcast. I am your host, Frank Hernandez, discussing everything pest. Thank God you're here. I'm just excited that we can do another podcast this week, and we're doing awesome. I hope you're doing awesome. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. I hope you relaxed, and I hope you're energized and ready to get back into it. We're really, really excited with what's happening. I mean, we've just been blessed this month. We're at the end of the month and we're kicking it, and we're not even done with the month. I still got another 2 days. So we've got Monday and Tuesday. It's a short month, but you can get it done. You can kick butt this month and finish it off strong. And we're going to be discussing on this edition how to get better control with the use of adjuvants. And most people have no clue what I'm talking about, and that's okay, because this podcast is devoted to lifelong learning about things we don't completely understand yet, but one day we'll understand something more. But getting into adjuvants and in pest control, and I realize that most of the people here listening to me are termite and GHP guys. They're not L&O guys, and we have a lot of applications for adjuvants in lawn and ornamental. But if you're doing mosquito control and you're doing GHP and you're doing flea and tick control indoor and out, and you're doing bed bug service, this podcast should help you get better results from your pesticide. And we're going to discuss why on this edition. But to talk about a little bit of adjuvant behavior, what is an adjuvant? What does it do? Well, mostly, remember, I always say this because people don't understand that all the products, if you're in GHP, there is nobody out there making a product just for you. You are a very, very, as far as pest control goes, the size of lawn and ornamental, as far as an income, it's almost equivalent to the GHP and termite market combined, except they keep it separate. PCT magazine and the other magazine, I just lost my train of thought on it, Pest Management Professional, PMP, do not report on L&O. They only report on GHP and termite, really, and then they split it between residential and commercial. But if you look at the L&O market, it's almost as big as GHP and termite combined in this country. The problem is that worldwide, it's not big. It's not big in Europe. Lawn and ornamental is not big in the UK because it is strictly a product or service that you buy when you have a lot of disposable income. Lawn and ornamental is bought by people who have money to throw at it. And that's who really buys it. And unfortunately, across the world, people are mostly focused on vector diseases and problems with mosquito and dengue and things like that affect their health. This is strictly a discretionary income-based product, and it's really not big around the world. Why do you think Bayer sold off its line of in Europe to another company of lawn and ornamental products and the over-the-counter products? Just not that big. But in the U.S., you look at the size of that market, it's almost as big as GHP and termite combined. And I want to pull some numbers out because I looked at it last time, and it's very hard to get those numbers because they're separated, but they don't report on them. And so it's very important that you understand that most of the data that we get from agriculture. Okay, so if you really want to get good at L&O, lawn and ornamental, or ornamentals and plants, you really got to get into the agricultural market and then into the nursery market to really learn what they are doing to get the results they get, and then apply it to the landscape. Stop trying to learn from other people copying what they're doing. Most of the companies that I see doing lawn and ornamental don't have a clue. I mean, you're the really big ones. Really, they're just really good at lawns, and they're not even that good at it anymore. So, you really got to do a lot of studying. You got to learn plants. You got to learn diseases. You got to learn deficiency. You got to learn whether that plant is in the right place. Does it have the amount of light? Does it have the right amount of water? It is totally different from GHP, where you're focusing on killing a pest that's causing somebody a nightmare, versus selling aesthetics. And in termite, you're selling protection of the home, because you don't want that ceiling of that house to cave in on you because it has termites. GHP, you really have to be a salesperson. L&O, you really have to be a really good salesperson to sell it, because you're selling something that somebody might want, but it's a lot of money to get. I just dropped my price 30% in the market to compete, because we're able to, and because we have the synergy now, we have the systems in place where we have things in place that allow us to be more competitive, and drop our price by 30%, and I'm still 2 to 3 times more. I'm way over my big three market. I'm double their price on our L&O, but when I show up to a landscape, usually they've had 2 or 3 guys, and the landscape looks like garbage. And we're able to show how we do it, but yeah, it's going to cost you 2 to 3 times more if you want that kind of service. So it is very competitive, but it can be done, and a lot of the things that you can do and learn from that market and apply it over to GHP to be able to get control with a lot of these products. Adjuvant behavior, like water droplet size. Nobody ever considers water droplet size when they're doing their service. If you're doing termite, that's not a consideration for you. But if you're doing GHP, it is a consideration, because you have to know how much of that product you're putting out on linear feet. If you're doing baseboarding or you're doing perimeter. There's a big difference between that spray tip that comes from a B&G, which is, it gives you, I forgot if it's like 1,000 feet to like 17 ounces of water, because it's so small and it's coming out at very low pressure, and you're getting these droplets. I got to look exactly where that number is, but I think that's right. Compared to a backpack sprayer doing it outside, or doing a hand crank sprayer where you're putting out 3 to 4 times the amount of water to the amount of active ingredient. And that becomes very important if you're doing certain facilities, certain structures, with certain products that have specific how much you can put out per 1,000 square feet. So it makes a big difference. And an adjuvant will modify in agriculture and in ornamentals, modify sometimes the droplet size, so that you're getting a uniform droplet application, which is very important. We're going to discuss why. Adherence to the product will add. You can add other products that adhere the product better, longer to the leaf or to a surface. And that's important. Improved droplet coverage, how much coverage you're getting. If you got a wide leaf, a really wide leaf, and how good of a coverage are you getting on that? If you've got a very small leaf like a lawn, and you're dealing for fungal diseases, how much coverage are you getting on that leaf versus that droplet bouncing off of that leaf onto the ground? Are you getting for foliar disease? Are you getting the coverage? An adjuvant can help you get a more even coverage. But it works mainly by reducing surface tension. Now we're just getting into basically physics, and in the essence of how water behaves and why, and it's because of the charged particles in water that create the surface tension. So improved distribution enhances penetration depending on the product that you're using, like an organosilicone, which will allow the plant to absorb better micronutrients, to absorb systemic insecticide and systemic fungicides. So we're going to discuss how that works. It enhances all parts. Adjuvants enhance all performances on herbicides, fungicides, insecticides, and fertilizers. Why on herbicides? If you're doing weed control for lawn and you add an adjuvant, you can actually use on most products, you can use the lowest dosage saving you product, putting less product out into the environment, costing you less by just adding a couple of cents per gallon of adjuvant. And what it's going to do is it's going to open up that leaf, when it takes in that product, it will allow it to absorb it better. Plus, getting better coverage allows you more absorption of that product by getting a better coverage. So you're balancing it off between getting better coverage with a couple of pennies more, but not having to use as much product, which is far more expensive. That's one of the ways that using an adjuvant will help you in lawn and ornamental. And believe it or not, I talked to hundreds of people that are doing lawn and ornamental and are not using adjuvants. And I'm asking why. And well, it just adds another cost. But, reality is that you're going to save money. I mean, people ask me all the time. It's like I tell people, look, our product costs have been fixed for 6 years. We're 1.5% to 3% on GHP. That doesn't include rodent stations and lamps and glue boards. We're talking about chem only. And in Illinois, we're at 6%, half of my cost of chemical, and we're at another 6% for fertilizers, which would put us as a total at a 13% with chem and fertilizer. The rest of the industry tells me you have to be somewhere around 15%. And I said, no, you don't. We've been doing it for 6 years, going on now 7, and we're getting way better control, way better aesthetics than any of my competitors, whether they're small or large, and people can't figure it out. And this is why we've understood the understanding of the chemistry working together with the environment, working together with other products to get the results we want. But it's through testing. I mean, I can sit here and give you all of the information, spell it out for you. And unless you go out and try it and test it and practice it, you don't see the results. I want to give a special shout out this week to Nicholas Vasquez of Tech at Sprague Pest Solutions in Tacoma, Washington. Also, Stephen Taylor, who works at J. Taylor Exterminating Company, Inc. And Delta Pest Solutions at Delta Pest SOL on Twitter. Nick Lampert, Operations Manager at University Termite and Pest Control in Tucson, Arizona. Thank you guys for listening to us, for sharing, for talking about us, for liking our stuff. We really do appreciate it. No matter where you find yourself, will you do us a favor? Give us a review. Give us some stars. Let us know what you think of the podcast. Let other people know what you think of the podcast. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Number to call, 707-395-7378. You can call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Leave us a recorded message if you like to appear on the podcast. Also, give us a call. Give us a shout out. Give us an IM. You can find us on Twitter and on Facebook, on the web, Pest Geek Podcast. Just type in Pest Geek Podcast. Actually, if you just type in Pest Geek, you should be able to get us anywhere. And use the hashtag Pest Geek. We really appreciate it to sign off on things that you like, and tweet us on it and all that good stuff. So thank you for all you do. Surfactants. All right, so we're talking about surfactants, adjuvants. They're called spreader sticker. Some people, that's what they know it as. But there's ways to use it in all areas of pest control. We're going to discuss that. Surfactants, overcoming surface tension. In order to understand how adjuvants work, you need to understand how water works. Most people just think of water as being wet, but water has physical characteristics that unless you've overcome them, you don't get all the results you want. You can actually get better results with water by adding an adjuvant and modifying how water behaves. Each droplet of water has a negative and positive charge. Okay? So when you're looking at this, and water droplets add a lot like a magnet. Both magnets have a negative and a positive charge on one side. By either reversing those polarities or putting them together in the right place or aligning them, you can make that magnet stick to another magnet or repel. I mean, it all depends on how you do it. And that's the way the water works. That's why when you put a drop of water somewhere, it creates that little sphere, that rounded shape. it's actually pulling in on each other, creating what is known as surface tension. All right. So, we're getting into physics, and water droplets, what we'll do is that when the molecules of that water are positive or negatively charged, they actually can work together, or they can be spread apart. So when that water hits the surface, it actually spreads by repelling on the charges. So that's what surfactants do in a case, or an adjuvant to help. It's many. I mean, there's like 20 things that adjuvants do in a product, but we're talking mainly about the use of it in water and not in creating or manufacturing a product. Components of surfactant help break that surface tension, allowing the pesticide moving dispersed on surfaces to reach the target. Now, here's how it works better. By also adhering, okay? If you can get that little tiny water molecule not to bounce off the leaf and actually stick to it or spread on it, you'll lose a lot less of your product. One of the challenges that we found early on was that everybody is using, this 600 PSI sprayer, okay? And they've got it up to 300, 400 PSI because they want to be able to spray trees that are 30 feet in the air. Well, here's what happens. When you've got a shrub and you're spraying for mosquito, or you're spraying for millibug, or you're spraying for aphids or whiteflies or any hemipteran pest on plants, and you're hitting it with this high pressure, 90% of that water is hitting the leaf, falling off, and hitting the ground where the pest isn't. You lose 75 to 90% of your product. You're wasting it. Okay, this is why when we tell people we reduce the amount of water we need in a landscape by 90%, which means 90% less product, 66% less active ingredient, to get better control and better aesthetics than our competition, people say we're nuts. But we understand the physics. We understand how these products behave. We understand that you don't need 300 PSI. We need about 35 tops on the high end. 75 PSI. That's like massive. We don't need it because we're not needing to treat a tree that's 30 feet in the air. If we got a tree that's 30 feet in the air with hemipteran pests, we're going to treat that systemically in the ground. We're not going to spray it. We're going to spend 10 gallons to treat this tree, with I don't know how many ounces of active ingredient of bifin or whatever you want to put in there. 10 ounces to treat a tree with 1 or 2 ounces. Between, 3 ml and 6 ml of imidacloprid, we can treat this tree for a year, depending on the tree. Use a lot less in the ground. That product is going to come to the ground, whether you want it or not. People say, well, you're not contaminating the ground with foliar spray. Yes, you are. Most of it is falling to the ground. It's not being used. By reducing the PSI, adding an adjuvant, you're going to get better coverage, use a ton less product, get better results by doing it this way. Evenly dispersed water molecules, water droplets are going to get you better coverage. Not to mention that the product doesn't bounce off of stems and it doesn't bounce off of surfaces. It stays to them by using the right size molecule. The right size droplet. And figuring out what that right size droplet is, you will get better control. Even like when you're spraying through heavy shrubbery with mosquito, most of it adheres to the plant versus going through to the other side or bouncing off. All right. Now, what type of surfactants do we have, or spreaders or adjuvants? The term is used interchangeably because a lot of the products have 3 or more modes of action, and we're going to discuss those. You have an anionic surfactant. Okay, so an anionic surfactant is one that possesses a negative charge in the hydrophilic end. When it's mixed with water, the water goes from having a positive and negative charge now to having a negative charge. And you're using this if you're doing foaming, for flies in a sewer or in a drain, and you're doing drain fly treatments, you're most likely using an anionic surfactant. The anionic surfactants are the ones used in foaming agents or soaps because of the way they behave, causing a foam. That's what. So a product like sodium lauryl sulfate is an anionic surfactant, and this allows it to stick to things. All right, so what is one that is completely sodium lauryl sulfate based? Well, Outlast Pro by Rockwell Labs is sodium lauryl sulfate. That's all it is. And that's what gets it to work the way it does. It makes everything stick, and by doing that, it causes also the foam. It has two modes of action. Now you get into a non-ionic surfactant. When you're doing ornamentals and you're doing lawn, you want to go with a non-ionic. They have no charge on their hydrophilic end. Okay, removing that charge. So what you're doing is, there are many types, and one of the ones that I like the most are what are known as organosilicones. And when using organosilicones, you really do need to read your labels. A lot of products do not work with organosilicone surfactants, but the ones that do, if you get that beautiful marriage of the right product working together, like a systemic insecticide that translocates from the leaf into the branches, you can get better absorbent of that product into the plant by using an organosilicone product. Okay, organosilicones are also one of the ones that are preferred for the environment. They also comply with California Tier 3 or San Francisco Tier 3. They're approved for use there. And a product like Kinetic, made by Helena Chemical, is the one we use because it mixes really good with oils. It mixes really good with any other product we're using. We pretty much just use it with our essential oil blends for control. And we have our own blend that we make that we use that works the best for us for our ornamental pests here. And that's exclusive of what we do for foliar spray. We do absolutely no systemic and no synthetic foliar sprays. We haven't done that. I can't think of, 7 years since we sprayed a surfactant, a synthetic on ornamentals. We don't use them. We have no need for them. If we can't control it with our natural blend, then we have to go over to systemic, because what we found out is we don't get any better control by using synthetics than we do with the naturals. We don't get any better. It's much more environmentally unconscious. Understand that we have a brand promise that we make to our clients. We sell a brand promise. And if we break that brand promise, then we're just like everybody else, saying, this product is organic and we're organic. We actually have a complete organic certified line of services that we provide for our clients. And the proof is we have a certificate from Omri for every single one of those ingredients that we use. And we do not use any product in that line that is not organic certified, because we're making a brand promise that, hey, we're selling you an organic service. And this is what the organic service does. And it's a combination. You can't just say you're going to use, Essentria or Ecovia and say you're organic or you're natural. That's just bogus, because unless you have the organic certificate, it's not. You can say you're natural, but unless your other products, the inactive ingredients and the inert ingredients and all the other things that you use are not organic, then you're really bogus. And we make that brand promise to our clients. That's what we are about. When we're not organic, we tell the client we have to go with IPM. And we have to go with organic compliant for certain facilities, and IPM for certain facilities. And then some people want synthetic, and sometimes synthetic is the only way to go. It all depends on the situation, but you have to be able to evaluate what you can do. Kinetic works great for oils, they allow absorption, for spread and stickiness. It's a great product. Now let's go over to GHB. What the heck can you do in GHB? Well, if you're doing lawns, and you're doing where you want that product to sit on the label, on the leaf, or adhere to parts of the leaf like the crown for like chinch bug control, that's great because it adheres to that area where chinch bug are going to suck. Also, chinch bug, we know that it's way down into the thatch, in the ground level. In certain cases, the organosilicones and the surfactants are going to help that product adhere to the soil. So in those areas, so it's adhering to everything around it. So when they're coming in contact, more of those surfaces, even at a very tiny, at the root level or at the thatch level, they're being held and they're there. More of the product versus just moving into the soil. So you want as much contact with surfaces as you possibly can. Well, what do you do for indoor pests? Well, there's a great product if you're treating carpets. Remember that water beads and that surface tension creates water from not penetrating. If you get a carpet with treated with a water repellent product and you spray that carpet for doing flea control or bed bug control, whatever it is you're trying to control on that carpet, it's just going to sit on the top. It's not going to move. By adding a surfactant to it, you're allowing that product to penetrate all the way down into where that foam is at that level and getting better control. A product that is really great for that is called Wick. And Wick is made by Winfield. I got a link, by the way, I got links to all these products, so you can go to the website and you can get a link and check them out. You don't have to go hunting all over for it. But we've got these, and we're going to put up some videos too that explain it in the member section. You can go there. By the way, you can become a member for free. Just go over to the Pest Geek podcast and just go to the member section and register, and you can get some great material that we're not releasing on the podcast. I just released a video on how to make your own foamer. Now, you can make your own foamer for around $20. All right. This includes the foamer, the getting a sprayer, converting it into a foamer. And there's a video there that shows you how to do it. And it shows you that we get the exact same foam as a $400 model for doing that. And it's all based on understanding how foamers work. So if you go to the member section right now, the video's there on the top. It should be the first video that you get to, the first page on making your own foamer. If you're not doing a ton of foaming, and here's the difference between buying a professional foamer and buying and making something like this for $20. So the cheapest foamer you can buy right now, I think, is around $170. There's no need. If you're only doing one, you're going to get started in food service, or you've been doing food service, and you want to see if this stuff really works before you invest $400 or $500 on a model with a pump, with a motor, for doing high volume. You're only doing, we can do with 1 gallon. I think we did like 12 drains in this restaurant. We did all of the floor drains. We did all of the sinks in the bathroom. We did all the sinks in the kitchen. And we can do it with like half a gallon of this stuff. So you go there, check it out on the member section, become a member, and you get stuff like this. I'm going to show you how to create in the next video we're going to do in about a week or so. We're going to show you how to make your own crack and crevice tool, which is amazing. If you're not doing crack and crevice and you don't have a lot of money to spend, with another $10, you can make $10-15. You can make a crack and crevice tool, a dedicated piece of equipment. And if you got one of those techs that just doesn't take care of their equipment and you're always buying, replacing equipment, this is a great way. Just give them one of these for like $9, $15 and say, if you break it, it's okay, because, I know you can't not break something. So that's how you do it. So anyway, the way that this carpet fiber Wick product works is by, again, removing the surface tension and allowing the product to penetrate down into the carpet fibers. Now, I think Bayer just came up with their new product that is totally different from a surfactant. It's a glue product. And really what it does is it makes the micro-encapsulated, I think they're not using micro-encapsulated product, they're using their regular product. But I'm going to get you a link on that. But the product, what it does is actually just a glue that they added to the product, and it makes it stick to surfaces, so you get longer residual. See, residual is in everything. Everybody keeps talking about residuals and residuals. It isn't. Residual is in everything. It's about getting control. And what is it going to take to get control? Sometimes it's residual. Sometimes it's not. So, that's one of the things that we're looking at, is, how do we actually get control of products and get control of things by adding something else to it? I'll give you a hint. If you take a product like a sodium lauryl sulfate and you add it to one of your natural products, whether you're using a pyrethrum, or you're using an oil, or you're using, cedar oil, guess what? Sodium lauryl sulfate acts almost like Cymexa does on insects in the lawn and landscape. It dehydrates their exoskeleton. So when you add that to it, you actually cause the exoskeleton to break down, and the insecticide can penetrate the insect much better. Trade secret. You look it up and see what you come up with that. So, hey guys, it's been a wonderful week. By the way, I forgot. I almost forgot. I'm so excited. I know that most of you listening are going to think this is deplorable, what I'm going to say. But I just want to give you an example of where things are going. I'm not saying that I condone this. I don't even have enough info on it to have an opinion. And I haven't done any research. But I just thought this was really provocative and really interesting. The fact that there's already a national association of cannabis. And they just had a show in Colorado, which Colorado seems to be leading the way on pharmaceutical and cannabis. And this is very scientific, though, guys. This is not talking about creating a grow house for, the way pot is growing. And I'm getting some information and getting some education on cannabis, because some of the cannabis doesn't have the effect that you get high on it. A lot of it, the oils and things like that come from, you can make, and it doesn't have the same effect the way it's manufactured. I don't have the facts yet. I don't really know. I'm getting interested not because I want to grow pot. I've never done drugs. Most people don't believe me that I've never done drugs. I've never done any type of drug. That would make me really, really, really weird person. Already weirder than I am. But I've never done any drugs. I barely drink. I don't smoke. I have a cigar like once a month. I just had one this weekend. And I have a drink maybe once a month. I'm not a big drinker. I'm going to enjoy a really good, expensive drink if I'm going to have it. And it's going to cost me. And that's it, because I don't really care for that stuff. I just enjoy some things. But never done pot. Just for the record, I've never done pot. All right. But they had it January 31st through February 1st in Denver, Colorado. They had 150 exhibitors and over 2,000 industry leaders attend this convention. Then I get in the mail the Cannabis 2017 conference that's going to be happening in Oakland Marriott Center in Oakland, California. So there it is. They got their own magazine now. It's called Cannabis Business Times. So, hey, if you want, reputable people are getting into the cannabis business because it's becoming legalized all over the place. And there's a lot of stigma and things that come along with, being a pot grower because you're, a pothead. But I'm starting to see this a little bit different. And, everything in the world can get misused and abused. We've done it with the cocaine plant, and God put it on this earth. He didn't intend people to snort it. And, marijuana is on this earth. And, we got a lot of medications that we've gotten from opiates. And, of course, opiates are being abused because doctors have been prescribing it like Tic Tacs when you have back pain. When I got my surgery, I got a whole bottle of this stuff. And it's like, why did you give me a whole bottle of this? I took one of them. That's it. I've never been a guy who's gets, hooked on this. Trust me, I've taken a lot of pain medication in my life. I'm a former cancer survivor, and I did a lot of chemotherapy, and I know what chemicals do to your body. And trust me, you don't want them. But, interesting. I just put it out there for food for thought. Check it out. I'm going to put some links to it and, see what you get out of it. Hey, guys, it's been a blast. I've enjoyed doing this podcast. Love you guys. I'm going to see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Pest Geek Podcast. If you have enjoyed the Pest Geek Podcast, please give us a rating, write a review, or subscribe to the channel. You can join the Pest Geek Society by visiting pestgeekpodcast.com. Thank you for listening. See you next time.